Hello! Welcome to the live stream. Dora was doing an excellent job at being part of the pre-show. She was just staring directly at the camera for quite a while. Now there's a very important bath going on over there. So, she didn't like that she was caught taking a bath, and then she stopped. Now she's back to the bath. Welcome to the live stream. We are halfway through Budgetober, and what a perfect time to talk about anxiety with money, decision paralysis. It is also the time of year for people in the US where a lot of employers are doing open enrollment. The healthcare exchange is opening up as well, although things have been totally different with the healthcare exchange in the past year and a half because of COVID. But healthcare.gov will be soon open for enrollment for next year as well. So there is a lot. There is a ton to talk about as far as things that you might be having decision paralysis about, things that might make you feel anxious, the deadline for turning in your taxes by the extension deadline was last week. So there's a lot of things you may have realized you've been procrastinating or putting off due to money, fear, and anxiety. Today our donut is black again. All of the donuts for December. It's so black it just looks like an inky void. It is a pumpkin donut, even though it is totally black. And it is an old-fashioned style. So last week I had a pumpkin pie donut. And this week, this totally black donut is an old-fashioned donut. Which means, like, it has, like, a kind of a rectangle on the top. I don't really understand what it means. But anyway, I'm excited to try that one out. It was very delicious last week. So we're really in full fall coziness mood. I was watching like all of the leaves just drop off the trees. There was like a large wind and almost every leaf on our block all like swirled outside at once off the trees. So we're just in serious fall cozy mood here, which hopefully will be a nice calming mood to talk about money anxiety because we need it, right? And what else are we doing today? No, nothing else. We're talking about money anxiety. We're going to eat a donut. We will probably have lots of cat breaks. She's now in the drying stage of the bath. So that involves a nap because baths are about a 2-hour long cycle as far as I can tell. So, welcome everyone. There is no planner content today. I even forgot to put my planner in the background. Oh no. I have to, I should grab my planner. But I did actually film a planner video today that is how I'm using my Hobonichi cousin. I am now about a month into having a Hobonichi cousin, my first one ever. So I am, the planner was brought in just so that I can put it in the background. It doesn't really match the kind of vibes that we have, although I have a different cover I feel like maybe is more appropriate for for that. But you know, I have to put the planner in there. But yeah, I am actually going to have a planner video up on my channel. I'm gonna have an edited video on my channel, believe it or not, as opposed to a live stream. And then additionally, we managed to, I really didn't do a lot, but a bunch of folks helped out and we were able to get a documentary I made, my first ever video I made in 2008 about eco-villages in Eugene, Oregon. So different intentional communities, hippie communes, eco-villages. And it is like essentially was just me interviewing all the communities I lived at and then like one other one that I didn't live at. But we found that. I'm going to do a reaction to it. I need to edit out like some dead names and I'm going to clean it up. The pacing was real slow It was edited in like iMovie 2008, and it was the first thing I ever edited. So, yeah, I am excited to do kind of a reaction to that. And I also, quite a few people that are in it are doing really cool stuff now. So I may try to follow up that with some sort of like, where are they now video. But things that go bump in the bank balance. I love that. That's an excellent, that might have to be a Budgetober badge name. I'm really running out of Halloween money puns after 3 years of doing these and having a badge every week. I realized I've used the Boojit pun like every year. So, yep, Alana says damn planner. I mean, I just have to put it in the background, right? Maggie says new podcast episodes update. Well, if I can finish editing the re-intro episode, then it's coming. Now there's the only technical problem is me not having enough time, so it's coming. Dean says I looked up those, I assume refer to the planners after last week, and y'all, I do not need any more vices. What I'm gonna say is it's a hobby. Like the high price imported planners is a hobby choice. It isn't necessary to organize your time. Like, no one needs this expensive planner, but for some people it is a nice indulgent luxury, and for a lot of us it brings us a lot of joy. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't help one's productivity, but it is in no way required for anyone. So, you know. Maggie says, I'm excited, but no pressure. I mean, I'm also excited, and I also feel a lot of pressure, but it's not your fault. It has been a journey with all of this. I also have been, thinking I need to hire back my old editor, which was like previously kind of provided by the station I was with. I'm not with that station anymore. And I reached out to him, and we'll see what is happening with that. But yeah. Alana says we definitely don't need it. It is fun though. Yeah, exactly. It falls firmly in that category of like, one thing I talk about as far as indulgence is there's a couple categories that can be really hard to rein in, like impulse spending or like figure out how to kind of trim it. And food is one of those big categories because groceries are a place where a lot of people spend a lot more money than they want, because food it's both a thing you need to live and can be an indulgence. And for a lot of people, it can be kind of hard to separate that out. And I think at least the benefit with fancy planners is that like it is not at all a requirement, but it is a thing that you can choose to do as an indulgence, and it has practical benefit for me. I don't tend to like many indulgences that I don't feel like solve some sort of problem for me. I do like, silly earrings and stuff like that, which don't solve any problems. So, but yeah. 15 minutes later, I was looking up planner stickers, which I'd also never heard of. Oh no. So I got a shipment of planner stickers this week. I should save this for the planner video. We really should not make this planner content. But what I will say, this is Oh My Dollar related, so I can talk about it. Finally, since this is related to decision paralysis and putting things off, I hate spending, I hate restocking items for my store when they are like really expensive items, even if I've sold out, even if I know I'm going to sell them again. And I had to do the third round restock of these matte stickers. So these are the stickers that come with all of my books, and we reformatted these and tried a new printer, but it's always hard for me to spend money on them, even though it makes perfect sense. I make them back. I make a decent profit margin off of them. They're also really cute, and I like to have them included with all the books. But anyway, I got these this week, and I'm so happy with them. They are a little different. They're a little bigger. We also changed out some of the cats on them from the previous ones. We upgraded them. It's been, like 4 years of having those. I've done multiple print runs, so The journaling broom says, indulgence. Does me spending over $100 in stickers last weekend for my Hobonichi count? Yes. Yes, it does, my friend. Um, I went through like an initial bump of getting the Hobonichi, of being like, oh my god, I need to buy it all these things. I need to get it like stickers, like as though it was like a creature I needed to feed with treats and tabs and stickers. And I kind of like went through it initially, and then I filled a bunch of carts, and I didn't really follow through on purchasing except from one store. And it helped me kind of like work out those feelings of like, I think part of it was running into perfectionism and comparison, where I was looking, because I was, switching to this new planner. I was looking at a lot of accounts and other people's planner styles that was leading me to compare against them and think, oh, I need to have like the most beautiful planner. But in reality, it's mostly just to-do lists for me. And it isn't like that important for me to um it isn't that important for me to have the most beautiful planner. And I certainly don't need to spend hundreds of dollars on stickers in order to accomplish it. And I had to really like dial it back to be like, okay, what is actually bringing you joy? And then what is you competing in a race that no one else has asked you to engage in, right? Like this idea that I need to have the best of this planner layouts and stickers and everything because I had seen other people online that had really beautiful ones. I'm not going to spend the amount of time that some other people do because they have a lot of artistic skills. It's really a self-care activity. I'm not going to spend that kind of time on my daily to-do lists. And so I didn't need what that is. Alana says, filling carts and not buying is what I called hanging up. Lol, I have 50 carts right now. I love it. I certainly didn't like having to deal with abandoned carts when I worked retail. But I gotta say, I really appreciate how much easier it is to do online. And as both someone who runs an online store and someone who fills up and abandons a lot of online carts, there are benefits to hanging it out, because sometimes you'll get emailed a coupon that says, hey, you've abandoned your cart. Do you want this? I run that on my store, and a lot of Shopify stores will run that, which is essentially, if you got an abandoned cart and it's been there for a while, we'll email you to a coupon to be like, hey, would you like to check out if you get 10% off? So, there's benefits to it. For me, I get almost as much of a rush from not buying things as I do from buying things. So, but I definitely put off purchases that I need to buy because I resent them. So that part of that is what we're going to talk about today. So, oh, you like the kitty scales, Alana? Well, thank you. They were meant to be which chapter are they for? I can't remember which chapter they're the header for. I think they're the chapter on the we'll find out. We're going to find out right now. I like that I don't remember my own umbrella. No, retired. That's retirement cat. Savings cat. I don't remember what chapter that is. It's in there for something. It was meant to be, we have like badges in the back of the book that you can like color in. And one of them was like doing your will and actually like filling in your will. And I think those cats were for that one. So Abel Jack says, I feel like that everything that isn't fun to buy should be $5. I agree. Except that the dumb thing is that like a lot of things that aren't fun for me to buy are $5 and I still put it off. So like contact solution is one of those things where like I am just annoyed that it's like $8 a bottle and I need it. And I didn't wear contacts for years because they're so much more expensive, but I essentially had to go back to contacts when I started figure skating again. And it's frustrating to me that like this already expensive hobby and sport that I do has this other added expense of this like really expensive healthcare expense of I know that contact lens solution is not like outrageously expensive, especially for what it does, but it feels very expensive to me relative to what I feel like saline solution should be. I know it has more stuff in it than saline solution, but and I'll put it off, but then the problem is I do genuinely need it, right? So of course this week I went and I dealt with like the no, if I don't get contact solution on the way home, I won't be able to take the contacts in my eyes out tonight. So um Fuzzbubble says, did you need the lenses because of face masks? I actually had to start wearing them before the pandemic, although it has really helped, and I probably do wear them more often now because of the face masks. Like, we go to a German class on Saturdays that's like 2.5 hours in a classroom, and I find that my glasses just fog up from being in like a classroom full of people and wearing my mask for that long, and so I usually put in my contacts for that. But no, I actually had contacts when I was a kid because I got them like kind of young. I think I got them at like 11 or 12. And I got them because of figure skating. After I broke like a bunch of pairs of glasses from them flying off my face, or I would try to skate without wearing my glasses, and then I would like run into other people. I don't have super bad vision, but I have bad enough vision that like it's hard to see details at a distance for me, so figure skating is not great. So yeah, I have to wear the contacts out on the ice just from glasses are not great. And if you wear, I used to try to like wear the straps, like the athletic straps. The problem with the athletic straps and glasses is in figure skating you spin, and I would like get slapped across the cheek and end up with like bruises from the athletic strap from spinning because you're spinning at really high speeds. So yeah, essentially contacts and figure skating are I see people skate with glasses on, and I really, very hard for me to make sense. Yeah. So it's just a lot of centrifugal force in skating. So I can feel the centrifugal force when I spin in my arms. Like if my arms are like out when I spin, I can actually like feel it pulling my arms back. It's pretty intense. I think it's like equivalent to like spinning at 35 miles per hour when you do spins in skating. Ironing boards should also be $5. I totally agree. That's one of those things, like our ironing board is 100% from like the trash room at one of my buildings, and it makes this terrible squeaking noise that is like, I've tried to oil it, it doesn't go away. It's just like how it's built. And it's not quite even. But I refuse to spend like $80 on an ironing board. So we're just going to use this one forever. As far as I can tell, ironing boards like kind of never go out of use, right? As long as you can kind of tolerate them. Oh yes, the ironing board does terrify the cat. I can't tell how much that is the noise / the fact that the ironing board is something that's small and gets bigger. She really does not like things that are small and then all of a sudden get bigger. That's like, I think it's because cats, when they're like being mean, they're small and then they puff up. Yeah, I think Kitties on Scales was for creating will. I'm pretty sure. Dean says, don't have those problems in American football. Have a lot of other problems, just not that one. I mean, they do wear contacts, though, in American football, though, right? I think that I rarely see people, I run at a track around a, like, high school football team, and I feel like I never see them wearing glasses. But they do have the helmet. We should wear helmets in figure skating, but we don't. So, the journaling broom says, I keep a long list of things I want to buy on my phone. It sits there for months, and when I have money, I look at that list and see if I still want it. That is one of the things that I'm going to recommend today. Everybody's just doing a great job at like sliding in the actual topic instead of me just getting already extremely off track. Yeah, one of the things I recommend for dealing with both decision paralysis and anxiety about buying things is, I've recommended this so many times, but keeping a things I want to buy list. You can do it on paper. You can do it in a spreadsheet. I believe I have my version of the spreadsheet linked below. I definitely have it listed on old episodes, Omedeller episodes. It is so helpful if you need to create waiting periods, because impulse spending is something that is a problem for you. But it also can really help if you deal with decision paralysis about spending. So like if you really struggle to buy, especially things that are non-essentials, because you want to know that you got the best deal, or you want to know that you've gotten the best version of it. This is a problem that a lot of people run into, is that like they feel like they don't have enough information to make the decision about the purchase, and they need to research it more, and then they get stuck in this problem. Like, we don't have a new coffee maker still. Our coffee maker went out, like our heating element, and I you can't buy another heating element, but I feel like I want to repair it rather than just get a new coffee maker. And we have other ways of making coffee in the house than our automatic coffee maker, but I do particularly enjoy having robots do the work for me early in the morning. And I like what one of the things that keeps me from it is that every time I like open to research coffee makers, I realize like how many things there are to think about and how many decisions I have to make about a coffee maker. And so I just put it off. And if you are someone that like kind of struggles with these things, or when you get windfalls, you have a lot of anxiety about wasting it, about not using it properly. This is something I run into. Like, you get a raise at work, or you all of a sudden get some unexpected money, like a stimulus check, for example, and you're like, oh no, I need to make sure I'm using this the right way. And for a lot of people, that means they end up making no plan for that money, and then it just sort of slowly disappears over time. And you're like, man, I got this lump sum of an inheritance, of an insurance payout, of getting finally reimbursed for something I'd already like dealt with years ago, a stimulus check, any of these things. And you don't have immediate needs that you need to deal with. So you start stressing, or you have too many immediate needs. Like, you have student loans that you need to deal with, credit card debt you need to deal with, rent you need to pay with. And the decision about how to use it, how to spend it, is so overwhelming. One of the things that can really help is a things I want to buy list, and that can also apply to other kinds of money decisions. So, what we find about decisions is making it really helps to make decisions that enable you to change your mind later. So, like, saving money in kind of a general fun bucket or general splurge bucket helps you deal with making decisions for your future self that you can change, because a lot of the time our struggles with decision making are feeling like we can't accurately predict what we're going to want in the future because we have a present bias. We know a lot more about what short-term gains will benefit from. Like, this is one of those things where you get a 2% raise at work, you can pretty accurately be like, okay, well, that means I get an extra $1,000 or dollars a year, $2,000 a year, let's say. You immediately can spend that. You're like, new washing machine, or, new car parts, whatever it might be to you. But that 2% might actually have been a lot more valuable in taking care of your future self in retirement. And saving money in the kinds of decisions that allow you to make flexibility, like, it is impossible for you to know what 80-year-old you is going to want when you're 35. But what you can do is make future decisions easier to change. So, a great example is a lot of people will be like, should I save for retirement? Should I pay off my student loans, or should I save for a down payment? And usually my recommendations are, at the very least, figure out a plan for your student loans. Don't completely ignore them. We'll talk about why people tend to ignore those sort of things. But like, a Roth IRA is a great option that allows you to expand your possibilities of what you want to do in the future and put off that decision until it becomes a present you problem. So a Roth IRA lets you take money out for a down payment on your first home, as well as you can just leave it in there and have it as a retirement account. It lets you start investing and have that compound investment and make changes. And you can also take it out for education. So if you decide to go back to college, or your kid goes to college, you can actually use it towards education, and it can function as a mini emergency fund, because you can also take out your own contributions after you've had the account for 5 years with no penalty. So It is extremely helpful. Your contributions, not your gains. But it is like the Roth IRA is one of those things where it sets you up for flexibility. And that also helps if you make choices feel functionally the same, automatic. You can help make yourself get over some of that decision fatigue. So, decide what you're going to do with raises or windfalls in the future. Like, always, my raises half goes to retirement and then half goes to fund money. Or, half goes towards accelerating my student loan payoff or my credit card debt, half goes to saving for retirement. Um, if you make those decisions ahead of time, it makes it a lot easier in the moment because you make the decisions automatic. You can also do that with raises. One of the things I really recommend, which we've seen great like statistical luck with, is that you can set it so that your raises just all automatically go into retirement at your day job. That's quite often an option with 401ks or thrift plans, where you can just say, every time I get a raise or a cost of living increase, I don't see it. It feels the same to me. And instead, it just starts going to my retirement. And then you've made that decision when you're calm and cool and collected about your future self. And it doesn't feel stressful to make it. Because one thing we have found over and over again is that if you have too many decisions, too many options, you won't make the decision. This is kind of a basic behavioral economics problem. So, Vanguard, which is one of the like kind of leading investment providers, found that the more options that people actually had access to in their retirement plan led to a lower savings percentage. If they were just asked one question, which is, what year do you plan to retire? Then and just picked a target fund based on that, they were 3 times more likely to actually start saving for retirement. And saving for retirement is a perfect example of something where decision paralysis really ends up to people hurting their future self when it comes to money. I need to have the most optimized funds, but do you need the most optimized funds? Is perfection that important? No, function is more important. Getting it done is more important. I also see this with taxes all the time. So sometimes a really deep fear of taxes is what makes people not deal with their taxes. But quite often, you also see the other thing, which is that, like, I feel like I don't have enough information to make sure I'm optimizing my deduction, so I just won't do it at all. Or a fear that if they screwed up, they're going to get in tons of trouble. Here are the things I want to remind you. 1, fear of getting audited when it comes to taxes is far overblown in most people's heads. Less than 2% of tax returns get audited. And there are certain people that are more likely to get audited, but it is truly random. So don't get worried about having small errors in there as though that is going to end up with you getting audited. Also, don't be afraid of making an error and then the IRS is going to come down on you. 1, there are small errors. They will just let you update your tax return. That is what the amended tax return. You've got 3 years to do it after your taxes. Amended tax returns are they don't care if you made a small error. Fraud is one thing. Errors are a totally different thing. The IRS is not out there to attack you for taking every deduction. The other thing, too, is a lot of people don't realize that taxes very much are an art and not a science. There is often no perfect answer for taxes. 2 extremely skilled tax preparers can take the same information for the same person, and they can end up with slightly different tax returns because there are often 5 ways to do things on taxes because the US tax code is so complex. And I think it's important for people to remember that perfect is the enemy of good when it comes to a lot of these financial decisions. Waiting until you've come up with the best plan for your retirement instead of just starting to invest is much worse. Waiting to putting off your taxes for years and years is so much worse than just putting them in and then having to amend later, or having the IRS come back to you and go, actually, something is wrong. Can you correct this? If you're putting off your taxes or dealing with your student loans because you feel like you can't afford them, you're afraid like, oh, I'm going to owe so much. First thing to know about the IRS is that they will work with you, but you have to file for them to do that. They will, if the amount is totally out of control, they might accept a offer in kind, which is essentially you'll come to an agreement of some amount. Otherwise, they have a lot of payment plans. They're automatic. You don't have to, you have to apply, but you can just do it online. So don't be afraid. If you feel like you can't come up with the money right then, it's better to file and then make a plan for it. Dean says, and good they can detect honest mistakes. Well, can they detect anything is really the question. But yeah, the IRS is not out to get average everyday citizens who just tried to file their taxes and were confused by it. So it's, yeah. Dean says, I just assume there was right and wrong when it comes to taxes. Interesting. Not when it comes to US taxes. And I would also say not when it comes to UK taxes. Taxes are very much a art and not a science. Although your taxes are a lot less complicated than ours on the personal side in the UK, but yeah, and it is. I think a lot of people are really struggle to deal with them because they feel like they have to be perfect. But filing them and just dealing with it is better, and then move on with your life, especially if you have spent weeks, maybe months, maybe even over a year where it's hanging over your head. Like everybody has that to-do list item. Could be something you need to buy, could be something like your taxes, that just like you move it over and over and it just keeps hanging out there and you know that you should do it. I have like a robe I've needed to sell on Poshmark that I swear like every month it appears on my to-do list. We all have those kinds of things. The amount of life energy something like taxes sucks out of you hanging over your head, particularly if you're really anxious about it, is not worth the actual slight pain of maybe you owe slightly more or whatever. Just get it done, get it off, get your life back. Dean says, for me, it's the absolute trifecta of money forms and the government telling you off if you get it wrong. Yeah, I totally get that fear. The fear of the government, like, telling you off. The, like, forms. Nobody loves forms. Nobody loves bureaucracy. I mean, I guess some people like to fill in forms. But, I think it is important to remember that every time you put these things off, you are chipping away at your own confidence about your ability to deal with these things in the future. So what happens is, for a lot of us, this ends up as this like ball of, it's just like a rolling down the hill, that every time you kind of put one of these off, you're telling yourself a narrative about how you're bad at this and you're never going to get good at this. And it kind of spirals out of control for a lot of people. The thing about all mental illnesses and all things that all list of symptoms for mental illnesses, most of the things on the list around anxiety, around money, are things that everyone experiences at some point. Like, a lot of the things on that list are like concern they will not have enough for retirement. That is a feeling that a lot of us have at some point, fear of not having enough money. But financial anxiety and that real, like, deep-seated fear is more than just worrying about having enough money in your bank account. It is when, like, it starts manifesting in symptoms of anxiety disorder, and you see this in, like, often physical symptoms like tension, worried thoughts, irritability, like trouble sleeping because of money stuff. And it also can manifest in a couple different behaviors, some of which can seem really counter to it. So a lot of times people's fear and anxiety around money. So they'll be afraid of making the right decisions or afraid of not having enough money. And they'll actually overspend as kind of a reaction to that because it's easier to get something now and get that immediate hit of whatever you need than it is to deal with the big, scary future problems around finances. Um, you also see this it manifest kind of in the opposite way, which is hypervigilance. So for a lot of people that have a lot of money anxiety, they will obsess. They'll check their accounts all the time. They'll want to make sure that they are balancing their checkbook or whatever their virtual version of that, reconciling their accounts on a really regular basis. And that on the flip side is avoidance, right? I'm not going to log into my bank account because I'm so afraid of it. And if I don't look at it, everything will be fine. But both of those are, when taken to the extreme, neither of them are healthy behaviors. I think if you're on one side of it, you might feel like, wow, it'd be really great if I never logged into my account and I wasn't obsessing over it all the time because this is causing me stress. Or if you're on the side of someone who's avoiding it because you feel like you never want to deal with it and you would rather just not look at it, you might have the opposite thing where you go, well, I wish that I was someone that this manifested for me in constantly checking my accounts. But either way, if it's taken to an extreme, it's not a healthy behavior. And one of the things that you can do if you find that it is manifesting in ways that you don't feel are healthy, if you're having physical symptoms, if it feels like the biggest thing in your life all the time, like if the task of checking your bank account or calling in and dealing with your bank account or moving a credit card over feels like the thing you wake up worried about and the thing you go to bed worried about every night, then you need to figure out a way to create a routine and a ritual that just deals with it so that you can move on with your life. Because money is not a reason for living. It's quite simply just a tool. I think a lot of us have a lot of narratives that we've gotten from our upbringings, a lot of internal money baggage where we might believe that that money is evil, or money is the only sign of success, or that money breeds chaos. If we saw people in our lives fighting about money all the time growing up, we might associate money with stress and trauma and discord. If we saw, parents hiding spending from one another, we might think that money is shameful or secretive. If we thought that money was the only important thing in life because it was the thing that every decision came back to, then we might feel like if we're not making enough money, then we're failing at life. And the thing is, money is just a tool. It's just like a brick. Like, money is not inherently evil, nor is it inherently good. A brick can be used to build a, beautiful cat shelter and, make gorgeous buildings, and it can be used to, smash a kitten. A brick itself is neutral. It is just a tool, and money is the same way. It can be used to do good things. It can be used to do bad things. There is nothing inherently positive or negative about money, but we all carry around money baggage, and that is okay. Like uncovering and checking in with what that money baggage is can sometimes help you figure out what the root of the anxiety is. Sometimes you're always worried that you will never, ever have enough money to save for, a big medical event because perhaps someone in your life growing up had a disability or a, crash or accident where their medical needs were not met by the American healthcare system. And so you just always are stressed and feel like you can't possibly save enough because you never know what is around the corner. Uncertainty is what breeds anxiety for a lot of us. And that could be uncertainty in your own decision-making skills. It could be uncertainty about the future, but that kind of underlies a lot of it. And a lot of it comes from trauma in our past. Like, we're all a little screwed up about money. For me, a lot of the positive traits that other people see about money come from my own fear around money. So a lot of my anxiety about money means that it's very hard for me to spend money even on things that I need. I will save sometimes to an extreme level because I feel like I never quite believe that paychecks will always be there. I had a, long string of gig jobs and contract jobs. And, I might make good money, but I didn't know if in 3 months I would still be making good money. And that leads me to save to possibly an extreme amount. And to other people, that looks like a really positive behavior. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't come from trauma and fear and anxiety around money. For a lot of people, fear of not having enough leads to saving even things without value, right? So it might lead to saving money, but it also might lead to kind of hoarding behavior where you're saving old newspapers because you're like, I can use these to clean the window. You're saving, like empty shampoo bottles because you feel like you have to have all these empty shampoo bottles because you can repurpose them for other things. You're saving because you feel this scarcity inside of you and you're trying to overcome it with this hoarding behavior. And that money anxiety can be at the root of a lot of that. A lot of times money anxiety will manifest in inability to spend money on things you need. So you're actually creating scarcity in your life, even though you have the finances for it. You'll put off things like healthcare, basics. You'll obsessively save and be frugal to the point where it's hurting you. And that is often comes from like a fear of you either decision paralysis of like healthcare. Quite often people will be like, oh, I've qualified for Medicare now, but I know nothing about the Medicare system. I can't pick a plan. And you'll be so concerned about picking a plan with Medicare that will put it off because of the stress of dealing with it. And, this feeling of like, I don't have enough information to make this decision. I don't know enough about this. For some people, the solution to a lot of this can be looking at money as a matter of ritual. So rather than waiting for things to be urgent or dire, it helps you reinforce the idea that money, dealing with forms, looking at your bank account, doing your taxes, whatever it might be, helps reinforce that it's not a threat. So, one of the things that you can do is create a simple list of what needs to happen to be on track with your money. So perhaps you have 3 primary things that you care about: your own house and your, house for your kid and your pet, your food and making sure that you have healthy food to eat, and the fact that you will be able to cover something if an unexpected emergency comes up. And for you, that might be, okay, here's the simple list of what needs to happen. Every month, I need to know that I've earned enough to pay rent, that I've earned enough to pay for groceries and food, and that I have earned enough to actually save whatever maybe the percentages or the amount is, as long as some amount is going into savings, or as long as I have the emergency fund, then that is, your checklist. For you, it might be, I'm saving for retirement, I'm saving for vacation, and I'm spending enough money to live. And that's it. That's, simplifying the list of things that you need to do. And perhaps that is a weekly ritual where you log into all your bank accounts, you make sure they're still there, they're not on fire. You check them. You look to see that you have enough to cover whatever for the next month or the next week that's in there. Can I pay my rent? Can I pay for groceries? And then you're done. And creating that ritual, it's also important to do it in such a way where it is helping you overcome the negative feelings that you associate with possibly doing those tasks. So if you're someone that really, really is extremely fearful at looking at anything to do with money, one of the things you can do is kind of batch that unpleasant task with something that you have a positive association with. I talked about this a little bit on the ADHD live stream last week, but it really helps to build in rewards at the same time that you're doing the activity. Because if you've got this anxiety around money, that is coming from a place of trauma, and you're going to have to relearn that this is actually helping empower you. It's helping take away the anxiety by creating a routine around your money. So maybe it is that every week you get in a nice calm place, you get a light a scented candle, whatever gets it going for you. You can have a bathtub, do this on your waterproof phone in the bathtub. Maybe you make a cup of tea or whatever your nice beverage is. You do something calming. You make sure that someone is able to watch the screaming children for half an hour, or you do it when you're in a non-stressful part of the week, and you create a positive ritual. Maybe you get a nice bar of chocolate, or whatever your favorite treat is. Maybe it is a pumpkin donut, and you create a positive association with whatever that thing is. Maybe you listen to your favorite album. Yeah, maybe now I'm hearing Barry White playing in the background. It sounds like it's oversimplified, and that is because I want it to be as simple as possible. I think one of the problems that people with money anxiety get into is the same sort of things that you deal with ADHD and procrastination, which is that you get so caught up in having the perfect ritual of having the perfect taxes, having the perfect budget, that you don't do anything at all. And you get caught in that situation of paralysis around it. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be quite simply just slowly making yourself listen to your favorite album, put on a cup of tea, log into your bank accounts, be like, those are still there, log out every week. It helps bring down that heart rate, those physical symptoms that a lot of us associate with money. So if you're on the other side where the hypervigilance is giving you a lot of stress, granularly tracking everything you spend is kind of the manifestation of your money anxiety for you. One of the other things you can do is create a ritual, and that ritual is your hard stop. So one of the things that can happen with a lot of people with anxiety around money is you start to create an obsessive pattern of behavior. So you'll be checking your bank accounts really often. You'll be doing it, you'll be granularly tracking everything, and it won't be bringing you joy. You'll be doing it because you're extremely afraid, you're extremely fearful. So one of the things you can do is create that calm ritual, and that is the hard stop. Just the same as you would do with, trying to break a social media addiction or stop vaping. You create the barrier of, I am going to change the account password, or I'm not going to log in on Mondays every week. I'm going to stop logging in on Tuesdays every week. You reduce sort of your exposure to that. And what you want to do is create a feeling in your brain that it is okay. So every time you're checking, you're seeing that it's still okay. You're creating calm feelings in your brain so that you don't have to constantly granularly track. One thing I recommend for people where dealing with money really granularly does give them anxiety, or they have obsessive kind of behaviors around it, is consider making your categories. If you are someone that regularly budgets or tracks, make those categories way more broad. So, instead of being tracking every single thing that you're doing, you say, okay, I've got a fun category, a essentials category, and a savings category, and that's it. And having really broad categories. For me, I need to track things granularly because I like the data, and the data makes me feel calm, but that's not true for everyone. So you kind of have to figure out if tracking is bringing you clarity, and that clarity is reducing your anxiety, or if tracking you is bringing you stress. But the method that I've never seen work reduce money anxiety is the ignore everything until it catches on fire method. I have never seen anybody have success with this method as a way of reducing their money anxiety. I won't call and deal with my student loans. I won't deal with getting that tax form. I won't log in to check my bank account. very few of us are in a financial position where we can completely ignore everything to have to do with money and never deal with it and meet our financial goals, right? I also recommend that if you are someone who is very stressed and anxious about money, and it has to do with this feeling of scarcity. So you're always worried that you're going to be able to, you're not going to have enough money for an emergency vet bill or to meet your deductible. And quite often, this occurs in people that actually do have the finances. They make decent money. They actually have the money to do these things, but you have this inherent stress lives up here in your shoulders that it's all going to go wrong for you, that all of the worst things are going to possibly happen. And I don't think this past year and a half, the past 4 years even, has really done a lot to dissuade people with anxiety. For a lot of people with anxiety, myself included, you go, hey, look, we said that everything bad could happen. We anticipated everything bad could happen, and it did. Well, on a very simple level, one of the things I recommend for people that carry around that particular kind of money anxiety is sinking funds. So sinking funds are essentially where you put a small amount aside each week or each month towards a infrequent thing. So that could be either an emergency vet appointment. It could be a cat sinking fund. It's just like a general amount for your cat or your dog. It could be a sinking fund even for fun. A little bit of money that you put aside so that when there is something like a drop from a favorite miniatures figurine thing, you don't have to worry, do I have the money for this? Because you have a sinking fund. This is also really great for annual expenses. So if you've got something like car insurance where you pay every 6 months, or renter's insurance you pay once a year, they get you by saying, oh, it's only $10 a month. And you're like, yeah, that sounds fine. But if you're someone who's always worried if you're going to have the money to cover it, then sinking funds can really, really help because you use that same psychology back on yourself. You go, okay, it's $120 a year, only $10 a month. Slowly put aside that $10 a month each month. I really recommend if you are someone who struggles with that kind of anxiety of making decisions, of dealing with it, set up things to be really automatic. Because once you've done that, once you've gone, okay, my goals are saving for a down payment and having enough money for an unexpected healthcare expense, and you're automatically saving out of each paycheck or each month or whatever that you get and putting it into, little pots of money, it can really help reduce a lot of that anxiety for you. Investment clubs are another way to kind of get into a commitment device. So if you are so stressed and worried about making sure that you actually do start saving for retirement, or you can't pick the best funds, you can do something called a TANDA, which is a savings club, which is where you find, let's say 10 people that you trust. They need to be people you trust. They don't have to be your best friends. They just have to be people that you trust. And every month, say you meet, each person brings $100 and gives it to one person. It functions as a no interest loan for people that get it later. And then it functions as, or for people that get it early. And then it functions as a kind of committed savings device for people that get it later. And you talk about what you're going to do with the money. You have this commitment to other people, which can help a lot of the times with the decision paralysis. So on the 10th of the month, you're all going to meet at the cafe and you're all going to have your $100. And you get to talk about what you're going to do with the money. Are you going to use it to pay down debt? Are you going to use it to go on a vacation? Are you going to use it to buy a new catalytic converter because yours got stolen off your car? Whatever it is, it creates that commitment device. I also really recommend if you have the ability to do this, hire someone to help when you need it. If it is something that has been hanging over your head for a really long time, like taxes, and has financial consequences, or like getting your student loans to be dealt with, find some help. It could be a friend that just is the confident person that comes over and helps you deal with it. It could be the friend who doesn't even know anything about it, but says, we're going to meet at your house and we're both going to deal with our financial things we're putting off at the same time. But with taxes, hiring a tax preparer can really help with that, like, feeling like you need to put it off because you don't know if you're going to do it right. You don't know if you're, going to have it mastered. Hiring a tax person can help. In the US, if you make less than around $60,000 a year, give or take, there are free certified tax preparers available all over the country through tax aid with the AARP. It is a great volunteer program. I recommend it all the time. And it just because you can do it yourself doesn't mean you have to. I think there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, I can just use TurboTax. And so I just won't do it until I can sit down and do it. But if you make an appointment or you have another person that you've got to show up and have those tax forms, then that serves as a commitment device. And sometimes it's just nice to have someone who looks at tons and tons of tax returns to help you. Dean says the ostrich with its tail feathers on fire method. Yeah, I mean, that is a very common budgeting method that I see, and it doesn't work great. It might work in a short term, but it doesn't work in the long term. Maggie in the Woods says, my partner made fun of me for how much having a budget open alongside Netflix or whatever makes me feel calm. No, I love doing it as like a meditative activity. I'm also calmed by looking at the numbers. One thing I run into is that if I put it off for a really long time, my anxiety grows. And quite often, especially when I was living where my finances were a lot tighter than they are right now, because I've been saving a lot because I've had a regular W-2 job for 2 years, which is phenomenal of me. But when I was doing more gig work and so money was more infrequent, I would always put off dealing with reconciling my budget and looking at it when I felt like I was living on the edge. And then inevitably when I sat down and actually did it, I'd be like, you have planned for this. You have prepared for this, and it's fine. And I end up a lot more calm after it. It's the waiting, the unknown that actually makes me more anxious about it. The first month of COVID, people kept asking why I was so calm when I'm usually anxious. It's because I'd been ready for the emergency for years. Yeah, that was true for a lot of people with anxiety in the past couple years. Is like all of a sudden everything had become an emergency, and for a lot of people with anxiety, it was like the worst has come, and I have been preparing for it all along. We've been training for this. Ursula says the auto setup really helped when anxious avoidant built up 4 months earlier this year. Made repair catch up much less bad. Yeah, that really does help. Like when I think one thing that causes a lot of people to put off financial tasks is the burden of dealing with them. The longer you put them off, the bigger they get in your head, even if they might not actually take that long to deal with, right? I think for a lot of us, we'll procrastinate on something for 5 months that takes us actually 10 minutes to deal with. And often it's because I have this perception that it's going to take so long. And if you have already done some of the work to have things kind of auto-generated, it can really, really help because it'll make things even faster when you finally do it. But that's also that's part of what creating a really easy ritual around your money can help with. Is if you create that easy, calm ritual, you do something you enjoy, like watching dumb, trashy Swedish royal teenagers fall in love or whatever on Netflix at the same time that you do it, then you will create that positive reinforcement in your brain that this money stuff isn't scary. It doesn't take that long, and it'll make it a lot easier in the future, right? So the first time you do a task, it's going to feel so much harder than the 200th time you do a task, right? I always do this with shipping out, so for example, I just got a bunch of returns of returns of Patreon mailings because people change addresses. People actually move all the time. And so this is a problem. I always hate when they come back because I've got to like figure out how to update them, reprint labels. I feel like I'm doing a task I've already done. Even though I know that inevitably it's just part of the task. But I always, in my head, it's taking so long to deal with these returns. But in reality, there's only like, maybe 5 or 6 of them. And it'll take me like 10 minutes to do it. And so part of doing it on a regular basis means that I reduce in my head what it was. Dean says March 2020 was one of the rarest of occasions when my hypervigilance was actually my superpower. I know. There's a lot of us that were in that category. So we talked about commitment devices. Let's see. I'm going to look through my notes and make sure I've covered the things I want to. I talked about present bias. I talked about saving money in kind of broad buckets. Oh yeah. Another thing that can help with kind of decision paralysis and anxiousness around making the right choice is just splitting the difference. Because if you get so worried about, should I spend money on, a new fridge that'll upgrade my life, but I don't need it right now. My fridge hasn't died. Or should I spend money on retirement? Or should I pay off my student loans? Do all of them. Split the difference. Maybe it'll take longer to accomplish each goal. Like if you're saving less for retirement, if you are you're paying off your student loans more slowly, but making slower progress is making better than none. I'm putting everything in my savings account and I'm not dealing with my student loans, because I need to figure out the best way to deal with them. It works less well. One thing I want to say about student loans too, especially now that we are seeing the interest come back on student loans after that nice little forbearance. I want to reassure people. I see a lot of people with money anxiety not deal with their student loans because they are particularly afraid of, scared of, because they have, they've defaulted on their student loans, or they're in default, or they're behind on some payments, and they put off dealing with them. But I do want to reassure you that rehabilitating your student loans is extremely easy. And they will work with you, and it will also fix your credit report. It'll disappear off your credit report after you rehabilitate them. It has a lot of benefits, and just dealing with it can make your life a lot easier. And doing it while they have no interest will make your payments cheaper. So putting those kinds of things off you may find that they get so much more stressful, and when you actually do them, they are not as hard. All right, should we eat a donut? Does anybody have anything that they want to add as ways that they kind of deal with money anxiety? Either dealing with the hypervigilance giving them stress side, or dealing with the avoidance. I feel like those are the two positive. Those are the two ways these manifest, not the positive ways. One thing I found when I was looking up decision paralysis is I found this very interesting study. So in 2008, when the recession was going on, the last one, Hyundai actually did this really innovative buyback program where they promised any car buyer who lost his job, they could return their car, and the difference in price would be absorbed by Hyundai. And it made, while every other car manufacturer was actually having a huge dip because people were putting off making big purchasing decisions during the last recession, Hyundai actually had an 8% increase in purchases. And they did this by essentially getting rid of that fear of the unknown. What they did is they said, don't worry about job loss, because if you decide that this purchase doesn't work for you because you've lost your job, we will buy back your car. And you can take some of that in your own life as far as making decisions work better for you, is you can make it so that things are less a no-lose situation. You know, if you save money in an account and you're saving towards a vacation and then it turns out you can't go on that vacation because the entire global pandemic is shut down, are you really worse off? You've now saved money. You can spend it on something else. You can divert it to something else. You know, the only way that you lose is by taking absolutely no action on any of these things. And I do think that a lot of people will feel like there are so many options out there, but I think a lot of the stress that people feel around their decisions and their finances can kind of be dealt with by just telling yourself that doing something has an 100% guarantee of working better than doing nothing, and kind of reducing that guarantee. I think a lot of us get caught up in this, oh, I need to do the best possible solution, I need to do the best possible thing. But in reality, filing your taxes and having them be slightly off and having to amend them later is in fact better than not filing them at all. And then you are technically breaking the law. Dixie De La Torre says, one thing I love about you is you don't only talk about investing, you get much more basic. I've always had budgeting anxiety and feel dumb about money, so thanks for keeping it simple. Oh, thank you. Well, I'm here to say that, like, I think investing is really overblown in people's mind as like this advanced placement level in finances, and it's all linked. Like, this money stuff is all emotional, and investing in the end is not that complicated, right? Like, there's a lot of ways to do it just very automatically. But for a lot of people, I think investing, especially a lot of people who create content about money, a lot of people who are really into money, investing and talking about investing and analyzing investing is a hobby, just the same way as getting extremely expensive planners and planner stickers on the internet is a hobby for me. And that kind of talk, I think, makes people who do not care about spending a ton of time looking at back-end ratios and analyzing fund performance, and just want to make sure that they can take care of whatever their basic needs and their have a plan for their day-to-day and their month-to-month finances and feel like they are on track to meet their financial goals. Like, it can make them feel like money is so complicated. But in reality, the same things have been true about money that were true for your great-grandmother, which is like, spend less than you earn. Spend less than you earn. Find, prioritize the things that bring you value, buy to last. We make it overly complicated with because you make money. That's the thing. People who talk about finances make money if it feels like it's so complicated. You need help. You need a financial advisor to help you figure it out. You need to be in their program on how to look at back-end ratios. But in reality, it's not. It's not that complicated. But our trauma is what makes it feel really complicated. It's just, investing is like a fun hobby, but robots will do it for you, and it can be very, very easy. So, that was a long rant. I'm sorry. But yes, thank you. That makes me feel good. Should we eat the donut now? I would love to hear anybody else's suggestions of how to deal with money anxiety. At some point, we all deal with some level of money anxiety. If you are the blissed out person who never worries about money, I desperately want to interview. I know this guy who used to be a banker in the city in London, which is like one of the financial capitals of the world, and has lived without money now for 20 years. No, he does not use money at all. And I really want to try to get him to come on the show to interview. I've known him on and off for years. He worked at a farm that I worked at, a nonprofit farm. So I would like to get him on, but he is rare. And I also bet he does feel some anxiety as someone who has chosen to, tend to a compost pile in the woods as his main way of coping with being a former banker. But we all deal with it at some time. So hopefully we all have some tips. All right. Look at this spooky black donut. This is a pumpkin old fashioned. Should I get this warmed up? What do you think, Aaron? You think it? All right. Yeah, it's just like a regular old fashioned donut. We are gonna. It's gonna. Do you think it's gonna melt if we put it in the toaster oven? Okay, it's gonna get a very brief warm up. It is totally a void donut. Like when I put it on the screen, it just looks like a black hole. It's pretty great. All of their seasonal donuts this month are black. I am trying to figure out what next week's should be. There's a butterbeer one. I've had it on a live stream before, but it is black with little like gold stars. I don't remember what I ended up rating it last time. Should I read through the other options of donuts while the donut gets heated up? Maybe people can... We can't do a poll, right? It's a poll within the realm of possibility. And we can at least do a comment poll. We can't do a poll. All right. What do you think next week's donut flavor should be? Should it be a caramel apple fritter? These are all black or gray. Caramel apple fritter, pomegranate black forest, a maple bar, but it's a black maple bar, blackberry chili lime. I think I already had that one. Veggie empanada.
I only got 4.
Okay. All right. What do we think? Butterbeer, veggie empanada, maple bar, or caramel apple fritter. We're going to do a poll. Oh my gosh. Look, we did a poll. This is the first time I think we've ever done a poll. It's on the live stream. Block Talk Block says, dealing with the anxiety. I wish I could have money parents to replace all the fear and freezing habits I picked up from my actual parents. Yeah, I mean, I think that you have to realize that sometimes it's okay to move past it. I have a list of things that you might... I'm going to read from my own book here. But I talk about this in everything because I have found that we all deal with money anxiety. But here are some money scripts that you might notice in yourself. And you might actually have these and be carrying these around in your own behavior and not even like you might be carrying around scripts that are like opposite one another because you are a complex human. Spending money makes me feel ill. It bothers me when I discover I could have gotten the same thing elsewhere for less money. I make most of my financial decisions out of fear. When I was a child, money seemed to be the most important thing in life. Money controls the things I do and don't do in life. The adults in my life hid spending from one another. I will always be in debt. It's just a fact of life. I feel like having wealth or money is based on luck. Someone has used access to money to control my decisions. I don't ever believe I will have enough money to retire. When I was growing up, the adults in my life told me that a hypothetical payday like winning the lottery would solve all of our problems. I think people who are wealthy must have done something morally wrong to get there. We can't afford it was something I heard a lot growing up. If you believe that if you carry around those money scripts, then one thing that happens is that they can influence a lot of your behavior. If you believe that money is something shameful, then you will put off dealing with it because you feel like you shouldn't be stressed about the fact that you don't have enough, or that debt is something that you shouldn't talk about, therefore you shouldn't deal with. I think it's important that people recognize that is not it's not important to feel like you have the right money goals. I think a lot of us feel like, oh, I must be investing. I must be paying off my student loans. I have to do it because that's what's the right thing to be doing. I have to be buying a house right now, which is almost definitely not true. I mean, feel free to buy a house if you want to buy a house, but don't buy it right now just because other people are doing it. Okay, I have to eat this donut while it's still warm. But I feel like the worry about it being the right decisions and assigning morality to the decisions or the keeping up with the Joneses will it'll harm your own internal narratives about money, where it's harder to figure out what you actually want from it. Because remember, money is just a tool. It's meant to help you live according to your values. It's just an exchange of value. And getting caught up in having the right goals for your money will bring back feelings of shame if you're choosing to do something, even if it is according with your values. All right. Okay, I'm eating the void donut now. It's pretty great, is it not? Oh my God, it tastes so much like pumpkin. It doesn't look like pumpkin because it is black. It's like pumpkin on the inside. It's like a bread thing. Wow, that looks like I should be demonetized. Man, this is really good. It has that old fashioned, it's like kind of like a more bready donut, but it has the kind of like brown sugar taste without being overly granular, you know? This is really good. It tastes like pumpkin bread. It tastes like kind of slightly glazed pumpkin bread. It's not too sweet. It's not that fluffy and fried. Heather Larson says, yes, I feel like I will always be in debt. One, that's probably not true. But there's ways that you can deal with that. One, figure out if that's okay. If being in debt forever is okay. Is it actually preventing you from living your life in a way that you want to? Not, is it preventing you from living on a, island or whatever with, palm trees and not working again? But is debt a tool that you have used to effectively, apparently there's a donut tax being taken. Is debt actually preventing you from making day-to-day choices that make you feel comfortable in control of your finances? Is it just another bill that you pay? Are you caught up in this feeling of feeling ashamed, or that debt is this never-ending story that you're always trapped in? That is actually more the problem than the debt itself. Like, I think a lot of people with student loans feel this way, is that they feel like student loans are in the way of every choice that they want to make. But in reality, they're just a thing that they can pay. They can either choose to pay them down aggressively, or they're a thing they can choose to pay down on a extended timeline with, with income-based repayment. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it is completely in control of their lives in the same way that the narrative they're telling themselves does, if that makes some sense. But one way to get out of feeling like you're always going to be in debt is to make an actual plan for when it is how to get off of it. Log into undebt.it. I love Undebt. It's totally a free tool. And it lets you put in all of your debts and actually get a spreadsheet of them and see what the different kinds of repayment structures that you can use, and gives you timelines. And you can say, I can afford $400 a month maximum towards all of my debts, and actually piece out, okay, if I put it to this one first, that one next, what would that look like? Will I be out of debt in 5 years? Will I be out of debt in 10 years? And you can start to imagine what your life would be like without debt. There are a lot of people who are in debt their entire lives because they, take out reverse mortgages or whatever when they get older. Debt can just be a tool. But if it is causing you so much stress and anxiety, if it is preventing you from living your life in a way that makes you feel good, if you keep getting trapped back in debt because you believe it is the only way to get ahead financially, like if you're using it as abusing it, and you're getting trapped in this debt cycle where you feel deprived because you have to pay your student loans. So then you go and you splurge on a credit card, and then you've got this credit card debt, and then you pay off the credit card debt, but then you feel scarcity because of that, and you get back into debt. Like if you're in one of those debt cycles, then addressing that underlying debt cycle is part of that is addressing this internal narrative that you have that debt is a thing you will always have. The Journaling Broom says, a number of those apply to me. Well, not to recommend my book, but my book does go into more depth about how to deal with this and how to get through it. But one of the ways that you can kind of combat that is to look at your own internal values. I talk about that more in the book. I don't want to dig too much into it today. I could just read you the first chapter of my book. This is phenomenal. This is so good. So, Block talked about having money parents to replace all the fear and freezing habits. So one thing that I talk about in my book, I'm sorry to not just put slides up and be holding up a book, but one thing I really love is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which no longer, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is RIP, thanks to Trump, but it was run by Elizabeth Warren for a while. And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, one of the early things that they did is they did a survey of Americans through all different socioeconomic statuses and asked them what financial well-being was to them. And they did this like huge survey of what financial well-being was. And they came across essentially 4 factors: control over day-to-day and month-to-month finances, capacity to absorb a financial shock, financial freedom to make the choices to enjoy life, and on track to meet financial goals. And if you notice, none of those definitions were makes $60,000 a year or has this much in retirement or has a certain net worth. Financial well-being is more about making certain choices, having a plan for your money, being able to make choices on your financial wellness than it is about any particular baggage or narrative around what your salary is, what the perfect salary is. I mean, we've all seen these Twitter threads of $100,000 is not enough money, which is bananas to think about if you compare it to, the global median income. And the for every like rich person out there that is making 6 figures and is totally broke because they're spending everything they have, there is someone who's living on a modest income who is extremely financially well. They are making the choices to enjoy life. They are able to absorb a financial shock. It has more to do with writing your own narrative. And then this is one of those things where I added cats, but it was originally from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's graph. And it is influences on financial well-being. And as you can see, your social upbringing is part of it. Like the environment that you grew up, what neighborhood, what religious circle, whether or not you had parents who talked to you about money, whether or not you grew up with parents, like that is part of the influence on financial well-being. And one of the groups that I teach a lot of workshops with is with kids aging out of foster care, meaning they were not adopted by the time they turn 18, and kids that were kicked out of their family of origin for their gender identity or their sexual orientation. And so these are folks that do not have positive money stories in their history because their upbringing, their family of origin, let them go, was not there for them, whatever it is. And one of the things I really like to reinforce is that, yes, this is not an even playing ground. Not all of us have access to generational wealth. There is a history of institutional racism in this country that means that there is an entire class of people that do not have access to the same kind of generational wealth because of the history of slavery and other institutional racism in this country. But it's also just different. Like, one person's family may have been able to pay for them to go to college, and another person may have had to take out student loans. You may have had a job that had a 401k and auto-enrolled you, or you may have never had a job that had a 401k whatsoever, or you had to run down a hallway, hunt down the person, they had to dig out a file for you to enroll in the 401k. We are all presented with different decisions and opportunities. We are not all given equal opportunities. It's not a level playing ground. But the number one biggest important factor on your financial wellness is not just these social upbringing, your environment, your decisions. It is your actions, because you can have all of the opportunity in the world and make different choices and make actions that make you not financially well. And you can, instead, you could also be someone that does not have the same privilege and opportunities as other people, and you can make the choices to change your financial story. And it isn't written in stone. I think a lot of people, I'm sounding like a motivational speaker now, and I really don't want to give off that vibe. But like, the data is there to support the fact that the narrative that you are carrying around does not have to be the narrative forever, because we all the time see it parse out in the data that people can change their financial stories, and that the baggage you're carrying around is not the be all end all of your financial story. Once again, money is just a tool, right? Like, we assign a lot of value to it that it doesn't necessarily have to have. Heather Larson says, thanks for putting it that way. It makes me feel better to look at what I've done this past year to go the right direction, such as selling my car. Huge loan plus car shortage equals breaking even. Congrats on breaking even on selling your car. That's fantastic. That is, and rare. Like, breaking even on selling a car is extremely rare. So I'm glad the car shortage helped you out. The Journaling Broom says, I have anxiety about debt because I saw my parents struggle with it my entire life. I managed to avoid college debt, thankfully, and now I only have a couple thousand in dental debt. See, that's great. Yeah, I think that, like, the same thing we see with substance use disorder is that, even in twin studies where we've tried to figure out with substance use disorder, how much of it is an environment versus how much is genetics. And in twin studies, we've seen where, having an alcoholic parent, one twin will say, oh yeah, I learned growing up to drink on my father's knee, and I feel like it must be my blood. This is my birthright. And then on the flip side, quite commonly, kids of, the other twin and kids of people with parents that had substance use disorder will go the opposite direction. I never want to touch the stuff because I saw it destroy the life. And we see those same kind of behaviors with money, is that what you saw negatively impact your parents growing up, whoever brought you up, that kind of negative behavior, some people feel like, well, I have to always do it because this is just the way it's done. Like, you take out really large debts, or you hope that you win the lottery, or you play the lottery and it'll all work out. And Or you do the opposite, which is I must avoid debt because I saw it wreak so much havoc in my life growing up. And it's very common to go one way or the other if you have some sort of trauma of that from growing up. Iris Bear says, stickers are for mental health. Agreed. Stickers are for mental health. Dean Jones says, think I was flat out told I didn't deserve money and I would only get it wrong whatever I tried. Yeah, I mean, I think that feeling like you will always get it wrong no matter how you try will, for a lot of people, manifest in money anxiety. Iris Bear says, understanding generational influence can be very helpful. Yes, it is helpful to figure out where that kind of behavior factors in, where that fear factors in. And then it is important to identify how you don't want that behavior to write negative stories for you. So, you know, a lot of people ended up with positive money traits from their parents of origin. I don't want to only talk about the trauma that you because a lot of people are like, one of the reasons I'm so great with money is because it was talked about in my house growing up, or because I saw that we always paid for things in cash and I always avoided debt. And this was a very positive behavior in me. But I think being able to figure out where you don't want to rewrite mistakes of the past, or where a feeling of scarcity from your upbringing is leading to excess now, any of those things I think is very helpful. All right, this is so good, but I think it might be time for Floof of the week. Oh, what is the poll result? So the poll was on what donut I should get next week. What is the poll result? I can't read it from here.
Oops. I can't show it on the screen.
Oh, the caramel apple fritter. Dean Jones says, so much of this is emotional, far more than I'm realizing. Fascinating, Captain. I always say money is about 90% emotional and about 10% actual math. And the math part you can use a calculator for. All right. It looks like caramel apple fritter is what's happening next week. This is so good, y'all. I'm glad pomegranate Black Forest didn't win because it was chocolate. Iris Bear says, math is easy, emotions are hard. For some people, the emotions around math being hard is actually what makes them put off finances. Maggie, that is such a good point. We all have a calculator in our pocket all the time, despite what our teachers told us in high school. It is so true. They were like, you have to learn this stuff because you're not going to have a calculator all the time. I was just thinking about that. I'm so happy I learned like percentages because I remember as a kid, before I learned percentages in school, I was always like, I was always asking my mom, what percent, how much is this going to be if it's that much percent off in the store? And when I finally learned percentages, I was so relieved. I was going to learn it so I could calculate what the sale values were. And I've now reflected on the fact that, yes, it is helpful to know percentages, but 90% of the time when I'm dealing with percentages, unless it's like 10% or 50%, I am using a calculator to figure that out. Maggie in DeWood says, I used to be a teacher and I made that joke a lot. I think it's very helpful, though, for kids that are really anxious about math, is that it helps them kind of remember that this stuff is, it's like a lot of stuff. Like, life is an open book test, right? It's more helpful to learn the general concepts than it is to memorize kind of useless stuff, because thanks to the internet, everything is an open book test these days. Well, you can still say it, I think, in school because the kids don't all have iPad time when they're learning basic regular, right? It's like you might not have screen time and then you won't have a calculator with you. Remember when you had like a calculator built in on a watch and it was like the coolest nerd watch? I remember this. All right. I'm going to bring up Floof of the Week. Screen mirroring. All right, so this is a warning before we put Floof of the Week on the screen. Floof of the Week, so we have to have a little Floof of the Week song. We're still waiting on the ditty. If anybody wants to compose me a ditty, please let me know. Floof of the Week, Floof of the Week, Floof of the Week. I don't know. We got to work on it. So Floof of the Week is highlighting the wonderful creatures that live with our personal finance society, which is people that support Oh My Dollar on Patreon with $1 or more per month. Those folks help us do all of the workshops that we do. We've now done we've taught personal finance to over 200 people this year that are experiencing homelessness, in transitional housing, aging out of foster care, low income, young adults. We've taught personal finance thanks to the Personal Finance Society, and it also supports the expenses of the forums and the live streams and the radio show and transcripts, and makes it so that I don't have to take scammy sponsorships or rely on gross ads on the forums. So thank you, folks. And one of the ways that we say thank you is by highlighting their Floof of the Weeks. Fair warning, this Floof of the Week this week is not very floofy. So if you don't like nope ropes, you may want to look away for these pictures. But I think it's a pretty cute nope rope of all of the nope ropes. So this is Greywald on the forums Floof, whose name is Zemya. I think I'm pronouncing that right because it's written in Cyrillic, which is apparently just Russian for snake because Greywald is bad with names. She is a corn snake and she doesn't ever bite. When she was little, she used to climb up in the top of her cage and hide in the corner near the lid. She's about 4 feet long now, but her wiggliness makes her difficult to measure. When I got her, she weighed only 16 grams, less than the weight of the coffee beans I used to make coffee. Look how cute this. Look how cute. Zemya is she's a floof. I don't know if she's cuddly, but she does have a boopable snoot. It is a danger noodle. Look at this danger noodle. I think snakes might be cuter when they're farther away. I feel like once you get close to them, they're not as cute. It is a pretty boopable snoop though. So thank you very much for Greywald for supporting the Oh My Dollar forums. And yep. Jenny Lamont says, where we live, we have a 15% sales tax that is calculated at the cash register. I've gotten really, really good at guesstimating 50% on practically any sale item. I forgot about that because I used to live in a state with a 7.8% sales tax, which was like the most annoying sales tax to calculate, I felt like. And also it went up to 7.8%, but it was only temporary, and then it went back down to 7, which is easier to calculate. And then I've lived in Oregon for all the time I've lived in since I moved here when I was 18, and that's been my only like US place that I've lived other than Ohio. And we don't have sales tax here. And then when I've lived abroad, it's VAT and it's included in the price. The first time when I landed in Oregon, I remember buying something. I think I was like at the airport, and I had this moment of like, what do you mean when it's $2.99? You just pay $2.99 at the register. But I think the way that we do sales tax here in the US is really dumb. It should just be included in the price. You shouldn't have to calculate it on the top. But Our tax is 8%, so I guesstimate 10 to make life easy, you know? I've gotten really used to life without sales tax, and I'm fine with that. But I really think it should be included in the price. It's very annoying to have to calculate it on top. Those eyes cannot be danger noodle. Yeah. I think cartoon snakes are a lot cuter than real snakes. The journaling broom says, what? There's no sales tax in Oregon. There is no sales tax. There's very high income tax, though. Yeah, our income tax is like one of the highest in the country is like 9 point something %, depending on it's progressive, so it depends on your income. But yeah, it's really high. So yeah, a lot of people, Portland is right over the border from Washington, and there is like a ton of chain stores that'll be right on the like other side of the bridge from Washington, and it's all of the Washingtonians will come down to shop at the Target or the Michaels or the Best Buy or whatever to not have sales tax over here. So, yeah, it's really like pretty, like sales tax is pretty much more progressive than regressive income tax, because obviously income tax, even when it's a progressive system, it has a disproportionate effect on lower income people, and consumption taxes are generally like more efficient. That being said, it really should just be included in the price. You shouldn't have to calculate it on the top. And then the way that we do it here, where it's like different in every state and cities can apply it on top, it's just annoying. I think it's a bad system compared to like almost every other country has it as a value added tax, and it's included in the price of sales. Yeah. Iris Bear says, doesn't in Europe include tax and prices? That's smart. Yeah. Like everywhere else in the world does other than the United States. Yeah. We're one of only like 2 states without sales tax. We also have like really, really underfunded schools. So, that's what happens when you don't have sales tax. It's cool. You also can't pump your own gas here. So, Fuzzbubble says sales tax on large items like a car always seems like a trap. Yeah, that's one of those things where, oof, but compare it to like Singapore, where your VAT on buying a new car is like 200% of the actual purchase price. So, consumption taxes are a way to control prices, which is why the price of cigarettes has gone up so much, is because we have a lot of consumption taxes on it in order to try to modify behavior. Maggie in DeWood says people in Washington find very creative ways to get around sales tax on used cars. Yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can kind of try to do it. The places that don't have exceptions for groceries for sales tax drives me nuts. I just feel like essential goods should not be taxed. There's like a big deal around taxed on menstrual products, and the fact that they're taxed in all of these places where people are trying to like, undo the fact that they are usually not a carve-out exception, because it's not like it's like a fun luxury tax to pay on menstrual products. Wisconsin people come to Minnesota for clothes because there's no tax on essential items. I heard Missouri and Illinois have a similar thing. Yeah, what I enjoy about living in Oregon is I never have to worry about like the sales tax online, because one of the things that a lot of states had to deal with is, in the beginning of online shopping, is that they, had a recapture tax where they'd have a line on your state income tax where they'd be like, did you buy anything online and not pay sales tax on it? Pay it here on your income return. And everybody was like, I'm not going to do that. And so now they've kind of standardized it a lot more. A lot of the online platforms have changed it. But the nice part about Oregon is that we don't have to worry about it. And I don't have to collect it as a business owner, which is so nice for me, that I don't have to collect it being Oregon domiciled as my business. Craig says 8.2%, 25% sales tax here in Texas, but no state income tax. Property tax is high though. Yeah, property tax is really high in Oregon as well, but it's kind of weird because there's these two brothers called the Sizemores, and they liked to pass a lot of measures. We have these measures things that we can do on our state that not every state has, but they have all these measures that they put on the ballot that have passed that essentially limit the percentage that assessed value can go up in your property. And it sounds really good in theory, but what ends up happening is that a lot of historically disinvested neighborhoods will have extremely low property tax prices being paid by people that are new gentrifying residents to the neighborhood, and the benefits, the like historic residents of the neighborhood have been driven out by the rising cost of everything else going in on the neighborhood, the fact that rent has gone up so much or whatever. But there's not actually any public amount that is going back into the schools because of the bizarre way we fund schools here based on property tax. And in Portland, even more wild is that public schools is actually zoned, the property tax base for schools is actually done by neighborhood in the city of Portland. So that is one thing that we run into, is that historically disinvested neighborhoods, even if they're being gentrified and property values have jumped a ton, people are not paying a higher property tax, and then there is not public funds to invest in things like programs to retain people in that neighborhood or whatever. The Journaling Broom says, oh my God, that's crazy about pumping gas. I mean, it sounds crazy, but there's two reasons that we did it. So originally the reason we did it was to create jobs. So Oregon, was in a long-term recession. We had an exception to long-term unemployment for 20 years where we did not require the able-bodied adults, even after the welfare reforms of the 90s, to able-bodied adults to have a job, which is one of the requirements for SNAP benefits. But there was an exception if you had really high unemployment. Oregon has had extremely high unemployment since the late 1980s, thanks to the fact that we logged all of the trees that we could, and then what was left we weren't allowed to log. And it had really negative impacts on our major economy of the state, which was logging back then. And a way of creating jobs in Oregon was to introduce regulation. So yes, they were creating not the best jobs, but they were creating pumping gas jobs. Another reason to do it is, in fact, safety. So the fact that we allow children in other states to pump gas, gas is kind of dangerous. It's not good for you to be pumping leaded gas. And it is a flammable material. And it isn't particularly safe. So the idea of regulating it and requiring training on it in order for people to do it kind of makes some sense, but I don't know. I also don't drive, so I haven't pumped my gas in years, but I also haven't pumped any or had any pumped for me. I think last time I pumped gas was maybe 2008 or something. I lived in a rural part of Oregon, and we had a commercial license on one of our cars so that we were able to use the commercial service station. And that was, you were allowed to pump your own gas at the commercial service station. I think this last time I pumped gas. Iris Bear says online stores charge their local tax now, right? So if they have a physical location in their area, that is the tax you get. Yeah. Well, it depends on the state regulations, but there is a lot of third-party solutions that have tried to deal with that. But yeah. What is Iman in Washington? I don't know what that is. How does neighborhood property tax work for schools if you send your kid to a different school area? Well, it really depends. You can go. One of my ex-girlfriend's mom is actually the school choice coordinator for Portland and deals with this. One of the things that was happening in Portland is that we had a really dropping child population for a long time. And so we were consolidating all of these schools. Then all of a sudden we had a boom when the economy started finally getting better. We had a lot more refugees and immigrants coming, higher childbirth rates. And then all of a sudden we had closed or consolidated too many schools. So it's very complicated, but essentially they have a lot of different structures in place to essentially make it harder to send your kid to a different school. So we don't have full school choice here. You can't send your kid to any school in any neighborhood. Iris Bear says, I wouldn't know what to do about the employee pumping gas. I would feel like a millionaire. Yeah, it does. I guess it is. It does feel very luxurious, I think, to people that are like not used to it. The Iman is a terrible human who just likes to put terrible tax measures on them. Oh, they probably know each other. They probably use the same model legislation from one another. That is so funny. Interesting. All right. Well, we looked at our floof, our danger noodle of the week. Here's some cat cam for you. She's very tired. We ate that incredible donut. Oh, I forgot to rate the donut. It's all gone. I can't even put it on the screen when I rate it. 5 out of 5. It's like not a classic puffy raised donut, but I love the old fashions and it was very good. It was just like glazed pumpkin bread. And, you know, it might have been a 4 out of 5, but I gave it a 5 out of 5 because the cognitive dissonance of eating a black void of a donut and having it taste like this delicious pumpkin bread, just, yeah. She is a cinnamon roll, Floof. She's such a cinnamon roll. He also got busted from stealing an office chair from an office supply store. It was something. Immediately, my mind just created the image of, like, some dude dressed like the Monopoly banker man with, like, a monocle and a top hat, just in a large office supply warehouse on a rolly chair, just backing out without paying for it. That's what my brain immediately conjugated, and I've decided that that's what happened. She's so cute. The cat is so cute. I do have an advice question I would like to know, and then we should probably end because we've been streaming for almost 2 hours. Apparently 2 hours is the length of this stream now. It used to be an hour, but now it just gets longer and longer. I have a question, and I would love it if any of you know the answer to this, which is I had an envelope returned that was an international envelope with like a international forever stamp on it. And it was barcoded with my address on it, but it was very clearly labeled where it was obvious that it was going to Great Britain, and it had an international postage stamp on it. Do you think I need to go in to find out what's wrong with it? Because all my other ones were fine. All my other ones went out and haven't been returned yet. So I don't know if maybe they just got confused. It just like read the wrong address. It didn't read it as international or something. I don't know. It said Great Britain instead of United Kingdom on it. I'm wondering if maybe I should write United Kingdom. Maybe I didn't trigger the right international computers. If anybody has any advice, maybe I just have to go into the post office and ask. I'm not excited about that, or I could like try to stalk out my lobby. I do like my postal person. They might answer it for me. Oh yeah, I thought this was really cute when I got in all these stickers. The box, they had put all of the stickers on the box for the label from the people. It was pretty cute. It also came in the same package as my it came with the same delivery as my refrigerated medication, and so it was like this big boring styrofoam refrigerated box, and then this super cute box covered in all those stickers. But Dean Jones says, I didn't get my stickers yet. That shouldn't make a difference, honestly. But I would ask at the post office. Yeah. Dean, it was yours that was returned of the international ones. So I'm sorry. They'll come eventually. But also do not expect your stickers to arrive in any timely manner, even after I get this sorted, because I have been having so much trouble with UK deliveries. I also know that they didn't go out to the UK and then get returned because they had like a US bar on the bottom. And I know that you haven't moved. So I was like, oh, it's not a address move. So, but yeah, the other ones have, all the other international ones have gone out. I think most of the US people have gotten them. If you haven't gotten them, it's probably because either you don't have an address in Patreon or, which is like 11 of you, and then, or you moved and I just got it in a stack of returns because I have like 6 returns to deal with. So yeah, I just don't want to go into the post office, but I guess I gotta. I really try to avoid it whenever possible. But all right. Well, tell me what you are looking forward to this week. Maybe what budgeting activity you're gonna do, what your little ritual that you're gonna do. Dean says, I wondered when you said that. Sorry to be a troublemaker. You're not a troublemaker. I think it's USPS. The people that don't update their addresses are troublemakers. Also, I saw one of my patrons that I know moved to Portland yesterday, and she still had her LA address, so I skipped her, and I just forgot to give her stickers, even though we hung out for like 2 hours yesterday. I mean, to reject it for Great Britain versus UK, at least not this end. Yeah, I don't think it left the US though. So I'm wondering if maybe it didn't trigger the top bit. Like, it's all machine read for the addresses. So I'm wondering if maybe that is what happened. But I think I've shipped it with Great Britain before. Iris Barra says, budgeting goal this week, less rearranging my YNAB categories. Oh, I like that. Like less rearranging money in the categories or less just like futzing with the categories. Because sometimes people like to, they do a lot of whack-a-mole where they like move money between categories. I just try to, one thing I was trying to address with the anxiety thing. I used to beat myself up for like changing the plan by like moving money between categories, and now I recognize I was just prepared. I was prepared for something. I didn't know what it was, and moving between the categories just means that, hey, I have the money. So switching because I've overspent. Yeah, I mean, that's fair, but also I've been budgeting for how long and tracking my expenses and putting them online for like 10 years, and I gotta say no month is the same. And sometimes you just have to move things around. So sometimes there's a deal on contact solution and you hate buying it, so you decide to buy 4 bottles of it. This is month 1, so it's part of the process. Oh yeah, it's totally part of the process. I usually say it takes about 3 months before you can really accurately predict because you just keep forgetting. Dean Jones says, we didn't Brexit from the US. Silly US Postal Service. Yeah, but you know what you did? You completely rearranged the way that you do VAT, and then you failed to communicate any of it. Also, you have all of these lockups at the borders right now. I actually shut down UK shipping to my shop because there is no information from customs office, from the customs house in the UK about what to do about VAT because they changed all the VAT in July 1. So, sorry, your country is just not doing a very good job at anything right now, no matter where it is, I feel like. Sorry. Aaron says, whoever's car that is outside is going to get this stream demonetized for copyright claim. All right, we should probably end before we get a copyright claim. And, well, good luck everyone with all of your week activities. I hope that you were able to have a nice, calm budgeting routine at some point this week. And we will see you next week, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, midnight GMT. I don't know what time it is in Australia because I'm pretty sure you have daylight savings time starting next week in half of Australia. So go check online if you want to know what time it is in Australia. And I will see you all then. Oh, yes. It's true. Britain is very good at delightful, wholesome baking. Oh yeah, I think we need to watch that for this week. Um, Ursula's end of October goal is figure out a fun something with part of my bonus. I like that. That is an excellent thing to end on. Well, have a great week, y'all, and see you at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern next Sunday as well for more Budgetober.